When talking about Patrick Mahomes, it's easy to name 3 Super Bowls and how great he is. It's also easy to talk about how good he was in college and some of the numbers he put up in college. So today I want to talk about all the quarterbacks that are ranked ahead of Patrick Mahomes in his recruiting class. Just a note before I get further in the video, I will be using 247 composite rankings.
Pressure coming on Allen, fires into the back of the end zone, touchdown!
The number 1 ranked quarterback in this class was Kaaya. Allen attended Desert Mountain High School in Scottsdale, Arizona, where he passed over 8,000 yards and 86 passing touchdowns. Oh, and he was high school teammates with Mark Andrews. Even though Allen had every offer coming out of high school, he decided to commit to Texas A&M, where he and Kenny Hill would have a quarterback battle to see who was going to be the starter, and Kenny Hill won the competition. After 3 straight losses, Texas A&M would then open up the quarterback battle again, and on September 14th of 2014, Kyle Allen would then start his first game. In this first game, Allen would put up 122 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception, and a win. Led out the college football playoffs, and they became a top 25 team the next week. Allen would finish the season with a 3-2 win-loss record, including a win in the Liberty Bowl. He will also have 1,300 passing yards, 16 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions, a solid season for a true freshman. Now there was going to be a little bit of a quarterback battle going into next season because A&M was bringing in this guy named Kyler Murray. Now Allen would win the competition, and 5 games into the season, him and A&M were rolling as they were 5-0, and he led the SEC in passing efficiency. Then A&M and Allen ran into Alabama, where Allen would have 3 interceptions, and they would lose 41-23. A loss wasn't even the worst thing that happened to A&M or Allen this week, as you had Allen say he had an AC sprain, but he was fine to play in the Ole Miss game, and he wasn't. Against Ole Miss, Allen would go 12-34 for 88 yards in a 23-3 loss. Due to the AC sprain, Allen would sit a couple weeks and Kyler Murray was named the starter, but Allen would come back on November 21st. Then on November 28th, Allen would play his last game in A&M uniform against LSU. After ending his Aggies career with 3,500 yards and 33 passing touchdowns, he would decide to transfer to Houston. Now at Houston, he would play just a couple games with them because against Texas Tech, he would have 4 interceptions and he would get benched. Allen was signed to Carolina Panthers after going undrafted. Despite being undrafted, Allen would get a chance in 2019 as he had 3,300 yards, 17 passing touchdowns, and 16 interceptions. Allen really hasn't done much since that season. He played 2 seasons with Washington where he appeared in 6 games. He played a season in Houston where he appeared in 2 games. Then last year in Buffalo, he appeared in 7 games where he just took knees. Currently, Allen is on the Pittsburgh Steelers where he hasn't recorded his stat, but hey, he's carved out a good career for an undrafted quarterback.
Watson, touchdown!
DeShaun Watson was the 2nd highest rated quarterback above Patrick Mahomes. In the high school, Watson set numerous Georgia State records, including total yards with 17,000, total touchdowns with 218, career passing yards with 13,000, and career passing touchdowns with 155. After lighting it up in high school, Watson would then commit to Clemson over various other schools where he would actually start out as a backup. After the first 3 games though, he outperformed starting quarterback Cole Stout, and he was named the starter against the North Carolina Tar Heels. Against UNC, he would have a school record 6 touchdown passes in a 50-35 win. In the game against the Louisville Cardinals on October 11th, in the first quarter, Watson would break his hand and would have to sit out the next 3 games. Watson would come back in the game against Georgia Tech, where he would then suffer an LCL sprain and not play the next week against Georgia State. And when you think it couldn't get worse, Watson would start a game against South Carolina, but after the game is revealed that he tore his ACL. Even after having an injury-riddled freshman season, it didn't seem like any of those injuries affected him in 2015. I say that because in 2015, Watson led Clemson to an undefeated 12-0 regular season record and the number 1 ranking heading into the ACC championship game. And Watson must love playing against UNC because in the ACC championship game against UNC, Watson would have 420 total yards and 5 total touchdowns. Most importantly, this would be Clemson's first ACC championship game win since 2011, and it will give them a berth in the college football playoffs. DeShaun and Clemson will beat Oklahoma in their bowl game, and they will have a date with Alabama in the national championship game. Despite throwing for 405 passing yards and 4 touchdowns, Clemson will lose 45-40. Watson would finish the season with 4,100 passing yards, 35 passing touchdowns, and he had over 1,000 rushing yards as well. And the crazy thing is, Watson had a better season next year. He almost had 4,600 passing yards. He did have 41 passing touchdowns, and he will lead Clemson back to the college football playoffs where they have a rematch against Alabama. In that rematch, Watson will have 420 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, including the game-winning passing touchdown to Hunter Renfrow. After being seen as the best quarterback going into his draft, Watson was picked by the Houston Texans with the 12th overall pick. Now Watson in his first 4 years with Houston, he was lighting NFL up. He had 14,000 passing yards, he had 104 touchdowns, he would lead them to 2 playoff appearances. After those 4 years, Watson would request a trade because he was disgruntled with the coaching staff changes and the front office moves. Then in 2021, he had sexual assault allegations on his name and he wouldn't play in that 2021 season. Then Watson was traded to the Browns, where he just hasn't been the same quarterback. His first season in Cleveland, he would play 6 games where they would go 3-3 with him as a starter. They would miss the playoffs though, and he would throw 7 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Last year, Watson played 6 games again, but this was because he suffered a fracture in his right shoulder undergoing season-ending surgery. And as I record this video, he has 551 passing yards this season with 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Will Grier in high school was a stud. As a junior, he broke the national record for passing yards in the game with 837. And as a senior, he would break a North Carolina record with 77 passing touchdowns. To end his career in high school, he would have 14,000 passing yards and 195 passing touchdowns. Out of high school, Grier would commit to Florida, where he would have a quarterback battle to be the backup with Trayon Harris. After losing that battle, he would then redshirt the entire season. Then in 2015, he would show up in 6 games where he threw for 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. The reason he only appeared in 6 games that season is because on October 12th, he received a 1-year suspension for using PEDs. After that, Grier decided to transfer, and he transferred to West Virginia, where his first season there in 2017, he balled out, throwing for 3,400 yards, 34 touchdowns. And with Grier having such a good season, he would actually get hot going into the 2018 season, as he was seen on the Maxwell Award list, Walter Camp Award list, and he was seen as a potential Heisman Trophy candidate. Grier would throw for 3,800 yards, 37 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He was named second team All Big 12. And the West Virginia Mountaineers would finish with an 8-3 regular season record. He would skip out in the bowl game into the NFL draft, and he was picked in the 3rd round by the Carolina Panthers. Now, Grier hasn't really done much in the NFL. In 2019, he appeared in 2 games where he threw 4 interceptions. In 2020, he didn't play. In 2021, he didn't play. And in 2022, he didn't play. And back in March, he was signed to the Eagles, but a month ago, he is released. And unless he plays in like the UFL, his football career is probably over. Taylor Christ was a 4-star recruit at Palo Alto High School in California. At Palo Alto, Christ would throw for 7,300 yards and 85 touchdowns, and then he would commit to Stanford. Now, when he got to Stanford, he didn't really play too much in his first 2 seasons, as he redshirted and then was a backup in his sophomore season because they had Kevin Hogan. Even going into his junior season, he still wouldn't be named starting quarterback until October 29th, where he started against Arizona, throwing for 104 yards and 2 touchdowns. Then on November 12th against Oregon, Christ will have a career game as he had 3 touchdowns, 258 passing yards, and a 52-27 win. As a starter that season, Christ would go 5-0. He would throw 9 touchdowns and only 1 interception to go along with 774 passing yards. Going into the 2017 season, Christ was actually named the captain of the team, but he only appeared in 7 games. Now after that season, he would then decide to transfer to Tennessee. The only problem is that he transferred to Tennessee just to become a backup, as he only appeared in 6 games, throwing for 450 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Now Christ's pro career didn't really last too long. He spent 2 years in the spring league, and now he's an offensive analyst for Iowa. Gerard Hurd was the 5th quarterback ranked above Patrick Mahomes in his class. He played high school at John H. Grier High, and he won 2 state championships there in 2012 and 2013. He was among the top dual threat quarterbacks in the nation, and he would commit to Texas. Hurd would redshirt his freshman season, then going into his redshirt freshman season, he would actually compete with Tyrone Swoopes for the starting quarterback position. In just his 2nd game starting, Hurd would account for 527 yards on offense, breaking Vince Young's record for total offensive yards accounted for in Texas history. And in just his 4th start, Hurd would give Charlie Strong his first key win as they would beat number 10 Oklahoma. In his redshirt true freshman season, Hurd would start 10 games. He would win 4 of them, throwing for 1,200 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. In March of 2016, in the offseason, Hurd would suffer a shoulder injury that would put him behind Shane Buechele and Tyrone Swoopes. Not too long after this, Hurd would start making the transition to wide receiver, and he would play that position for 2 seasons at Texas. Now, he didn't become this star. He only had 425 yards and 4 touchdowns in his 2 seasons playing that position. After 3 seasons at Texas, Hurd would decide to go pro, and he would get drafted to the XFL. Now, he would get signed to a couple teams, but the last time he was listed on the roster was in 2022, and I can't find out what he does now.
As Harris keeps it, and it was a good read
Brandon Harris is probably going to be the best quarterback mentioned in this video for a long while. Harris attended Parkway High School in Boozer City, Louisiana, where he was a 4-star quarterback and he would lead them to a state championship. Harris would commit to LSU, where he would spend 3 years, and his best season would come during his sophomore year. In that season, Harris would put up 2,100 passing yards, 13 passing touchdowns, and 6 interceptions, and the other 2 seasons other than that at LSU, he really didn't do much. After that third season, he would then transfer to North Carolina, where he would put up 346 yards, 1 touchdown, and 8 interceptions in just his 1 season there. That ended his football career as a player, but he's been an offensive analyst for Texas. He was the director of recruiting for 3 years, and now he's their general manager. Now we move on to David Cornwell, who's the 82nd ranked player in this class. I couldn't find much on Cornwell's career besides the fact that he moved around from Oklahoma to Florida and back to Oklahoma, and the fact that his senior year, he threw for 11 touchdowns and over 1,000 yards. He would commit to Alabama, where he played 4 games in 2 seasons and accumulated no stats. Cornwell would transfer to Nevada, where he had 97 passing yards and 3 interceptions in just 2 games. The last I can find of his playing career was that he played at East Central University, which is a D2 college, and there he only had like 600 passing yards, 6 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Drew Barker seemed like a crown jewel for Kentucky after he committed after having a good high school career. A crown jewel he was not though, as he had a mediocre career, having back-to-back 300 passing yard seasons, ending his career with over 700 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions, and after his 3rd season with Kentucky, he will retire from football. Now we talk about Brad Kaaya, and if you didn't know, his mom actually played Felicia in the hit movie Friday. And while his mom was trying to become a star actress, he was trying to become a star quarterback, as in high school he threw for 5,700 yards, 40 touchdowns, and led his high school to their first ever state championship. Kaaya earned his name as one of the best quarterbacks in this class, and then he would go on to commit to Miami. This commitment was huge for Miami because it gave them a future star quarterback, and they were trying to reclaim their spot as one of the top schools in college football. Kaaya would spend 3 years with the Hurricanes, where he would start from his freshman season all the way to his junior season, throwing for 9,968 passing yards, 69 touchdowns, and just 24 interceptions. Now, Miami couldn't reclaim their spot as one of the top teams in college football at that time, but Kaaya did help them go to 3 straight bowl games. After those 3 years, Kaaya would then enter the NFL draft, being picked in the 6th round by the Detroit Lions. He was later waived on September 2nd, and he would have other small stints with NFL teams, but he didn't record any stats.
Fake the end around, White looking deep, got a man, it's caught! Touchdown!
Now we move on to Shawn White, who had over 8,000 yards in his high school career to go along with 117 total touchdowns. He also won the 2013 Elite 11 camp over guys like DeShaun Watson, Grier, Kyle Allen, and DeShone Kizer. He would commit to Auburn, and he became one of the most mid quarterbacks I've ever watched in college football. In his freshman season, he had 1,100 yards, 4 interceptions, and it took him 5 games to throw 1 touchdown. And he only started his true freshman season because the guy that was supposed to start, Jeremy Johnson, sucked. His sophomore season was a little bit better, 1,600 yards, 9 passing touchdowns, 3 interceptions, but he didn't get to improve on that because the next season he was dismissed from the team. And after getting dismissed for a DUI, he would then finish his finance degree at FIU, and now he currently lives in Boston, Massachusetts. The guy ranked after Shawn White was Justice Hansen, and he had a far better career than him. Hansen will play at Amon Santa Fe High School in Oklahoma. After his career was wrapped up there, he would then enroll at Oklahoma, where he spent a year there, and then he transferred to Butler Community College. Throwing for 1,600 yards and 12 touchdowns, he would then earn a scholarship to Arkansas State. Spending 3 years at Arkansas State, he would throw for 10,000 yards, 83 touchdowns, 33 interceptions. He would help them get to 3 straight bowl games, and on top of that, in 2018, he was named Sun Belt Player of the Year. Despite his solid college career, he wouldn't get an NFL offer, although he would play in the CFL and he would play in the Euro Football League. But since 2022, I haven't really been able to find anything on him. Clayton Thorson was the 13th ranked quarterback ahead of Patrick Mahomes, and he was a pretty solid quarterback. Thorson attended Wheaton North High, where his senior year, he received all-state honors. Thorson would stay close to home, committing to Northwestern University. At Northwestern, Thorson played 4 years, where he threw for 10,000 yards and 66 touchdowns. Thorson started the most games for any Big Ten quarterback in history. He also set Northwestern records for wins, completions, passing yards, and passing touchdowns. He is also the only Big Ten quarterback to throw for 10,000 yards and to rush for 20 touchdowns in his career. And even in 2017, Thorson will earn 3rd team All Big Ten honors. Thorson was picked in the 5th round by the Philadelphia Eagles, but he didn't make the final roster as he was waived on August 31st. And that's basically what Thorson's career consisted of in the NFL, being picked up and then waived. But he did get a chance in the USFL, where he played 7 games and had 987 yards and 10 touchdowns. Now we move on to Caleb Henderson, who was the 14th ranked quarterback in his class, and where he really wasn't good. He threw for over 4,000 yards and 40 touchdowns in his high school career, but in college he was very underwhelming. In college, Henderson played in 4 games, 2 for Maryland and 2 for North Carolina, where he completed no passes for 0 yards. That would end his college football playing career, and what I can find out is that he's a quarterback coach at Georgetown. Foster Sawyer was supposed to be TCU's next star quarterback after his good high school career. The hype on Sawyer got boosted after he threw for 454 yards and 6 touchdowns in the state championship game. Although he did not become a star at TCU, he played 2 years there, throwing for 433 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. Transferring from TCU, he would then spend a year at Stephen F. Austin, where his season ended due to a knee injury, and now he's a football director for AP Ranch. KJ Carter-Samuels was a weird quarterback prospect compared to most others on this list, because you look at his high school stats, it wasn't eye-popping. But he was good enough to get a scholarship from the University of Washington, where he would then commit to them. Now, Carter-Samuels was not good at Washington. He spent 3 seasons there, where he tallied 310 passing yards. Now, when he transferred to Colorado State, where he would find success, as he had 2,200 passing yards, 19 passing touchdowns, but he would get no NFL interest. That's fine though, as he would find a spot in the German league, where he would become a German Bowl champion and a German Bowl MVP. Now we got to talk about Morgan Mahalak, who actually probably is the bust of this list. He did all that good stuff in high school, threw for 2,700 yards as a senior, 38 passing touchdowns, participated in the Elite 11 camp. He would then commit to Oregon, where he literally didn't record a single stat. He would then transfer to Towson University, where he would play 7 games, and I can't find his final stats, but I think he had over 900 passing yards there.
What a throw by Kizer.
Finally, somebody we're talking about, DeShone Kizer, was the 236th ranked player in the nation. He won the state title in high school. He threw for over 5,000 passing yards, 56 touchdowns. He was just a dude that was a baller. Kizer would commit to Notre Dame, where in his freshman year he would redshirt, but in his sophomore year, the first game he would play was against Texas, where he would just come in and play garbage time. But then in the second game against Virginia, Kizer would step in for an injured Notre Dame quarterback, and he would lead Notre Dame to a win with just 12 seconds left. He connected with Will Fuller for a touchdown. Due to the injury, Kizer would start for the rest of the year, where he would have 2,800 yards and 21 touchdowns through the air. The next season was about the same for Kizer, 2,900 yards, 26 touchdowns, and just 9 interceptions. He went into the NFL draft, where he was picked by the Browns, and well is downhill from here. His one and only season with the Browns, he would throw 22 interceptions, leading the league. After that, he played a season with Green Bay. After that, he never got another NFL snap. Out of high school, Michael O'Connor was a 4-star quarterback that chose Penn State. He didn't take a single snap at Penn State. He then transferred to the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, and there he threw for 12,000 yards in his 4-year career. No NFL team came knocking, but he would get an opportunity in the CFL, where he played for 3 different teams, but right now he's a free agent. Jalen McClendon was a 4-star quarterback that committed to NC State. Spending just 3 years at NC State, McClendon would have just 47 pass attempts, and he was primarily just a backup. Then he would transfer to Baylor, where he had 700 passing yards in 1 season, and he started 1 game. Now, he didn't carve out an NFL career, but he would play 2 years in the XFL, and back in January, he was picked in the 6th round for the UFL draft.
Beyond words, Joe. Gosh, that's one of the worst things I've ever.
Mason Rudolph was the 21st ranked quarterback in this class, and he played for Northwestern High School in Rock Hill, South Carolina. In his high school career, he had over 10,000 yards and 132 passing yards, and during his senior year, he led them to a 15-0 record and the state championship win. Out of high school, he would commit to Oklahoma State, where he had a really good career. He played 4 years with Oklahoma State, started 3 years for the Cowboys, where he passed for over 13,000 yards, 90 touchdowns, and just 26 interceptions. In college, Rudolph won a Johnny Unitas Award, the Semi Bowl Award, and he was named second team All Big 12 in 2017. In the draft, Rudolph would get picked by the Steelers with the hopes that he would be the franchise quarterback after Big Ben. Now that hasn't happened. He's really been a backup or a 3rd string quarterback for most of his career, but he has carved out at least an okay career, throwing for 3,000 yards and 19 touchdowns. Right now, Rudolph is on the Titans, where he's a backup, but since Will Levis sucks, he might be the starter pretty soon.
Comes Wilkins. Hurdling and in.
Melvin Wilkins was a 4-star quarterback out of San Marion High School in Novato, California. In high school, Wilkins would commit to Arizona State, where in his first 2 seasons, he wouldn't record a stat. For the next 3 years, Wilkins would start for the Sun Devils, as he would have 8,600 passing yards, 52 passing touchdowns, a very solid college career. Wilkins would then go undrafted but signed with the Packers, and he played a couple preseason games. After that, he was cut, but he found a home with the St. Louis Battlehawks. He currently re-signed with them back in February, so hopefully he's able to continue on with the team. DJ Gillums was a 4-star quarterback out of Jacksonville, Florida, where he threw for over 2,000 yards in 3 separate seasons, and he was a 3-time All-State selection. Gillums would commit to Wisconsin, where he spent a year there, then he transferred to SMU, then he transferred to UTSA. His college career wasn't anything exciting, but right now he's a running back coach at Stony Brook. Trevon McMillan was a high school quarterback that committed to Virginia Tech. While he was a quarterback in high school, when he got to Tech, he actually changed to running back. McMillan would spend 3 years at Tech, where he would have over 2,000 rushing yards. He even had a 1,000 rushing yard season, and he had a total of 16 touchdowns. Then he transferred to Colorado, where he had another 1,000 yard and 7 touchdown season. He would then enter the draft, where he would go undrafted, but he was signed by the Steelers, but I couldn't find anything on his NFL career after that. And what I found from his Twitter is that he streams on Twitch, and he seems to be doing good in life. The 26th ranked quarterback in his class was Quentin Flowers, and he was one of the most exciting players in college football, at least in the past 20 years. In high school, Flowers threw for over 6,000 yards and rushed for over 2,000 yards. He would commit to USF, where he played there for 4 years, totaling 8,000 yards passing with 71 touchdowns, and then rushing, he had 3,000 yards and 41 touchdowns. In 2016, he was voted Offensive Player of the Year for the AAC, and then in 16 and 17, he was voted back-to-back first team and second team All AAC. And back in 2022, he was inducted into the USF Hall of Fame. Flowers would go undrafted in 2018, but he was signed with the Bengals as a free agent as a running back. Then he was cut for the final rosters. Then he was signed with the Colts and he was cut there. After being cut by the Colts, that would end his stint in the NFL. Then he was signed in the XFL, and he would even play in the Fan Control Football League, but he hasn't been able to find a consistent home as a professional football player. Chris Durkin was the 27th ranked quarterback in his class, and he was okay. He didn't get to finish his senior year in high school though because of a turf toe injury. Durkin would commit to Virginia Tech, making him the second Virginia Tech quarterback to commit in this video. Durkin will only play 2 seasons at Virginia Tech, where he would appear in 7 games, and then he would transfer to Youngstown State. At Youngstown State, he would actually change to a tight end, where he was primarily a backup though. And I wasn't able to find out what it does now, but hopefully he's doing good. The second to last quarterback ranked above Patrick Mahomes was Rafe Piave. During his senior year in high school, Piave would throw for 2,200 yards, 16 touchdowns, and he would lead his team to an undefeated record. He would commit to Arkansas, where he literally wouldn't record a stat in his 2 years there. Then he went to SMU, where he played 3 games, and then he went to FAU, where he played 5 games. And according to his IG bio, it seems like he's a quarterback coach now. The last guy that was ranked above Mahomes was named William Crest, who came out of Dunbar High School in Baltimore, Maryland. At Dunbar, he would win 2 state titles back-to-back, and he'll be named an all-state quarterback back-to-back years. Crest was then committed to West Virginia, where he played 4 years, but he only had 131 passing yards and 1 touchdown. Now, I'm not too sure whatever happened to Crest because I'm not able to find any information about what has happened to him. And those are all the quarterbacks that are ranked above Patrick Mahomes coming out of high school. And as you can see, some were NFL players, some were college players, and some kind of did nothing when they got to college. And one thing I knew before I recorded this video and after I got done recording this video is that none of these players are better than Patrick Mahomes now. But that's all for this video, and until next time, I'm out. Peace.